Welcome, welcome, welcome. So great to have you here, family. Welcome to You Plant, We Water. I am your host, Dr. Toya Flowers, licensed professional counselor with a specialization in marriage, couples, and family counseling, as well as a professor of, you guessed it, counseling. And here in this corner of the world, we are focused on combining our faith, mental health, and relationships so that we can have the happy, healthy, truly thriving relationship that God has in store for us and that He ultimately wants for us. And so I'm so excited once again to have you here. I have what I think is going to be a pretty interesting topic, and it's kind of naturally came to mind because it's just something that I've been thinking about and reflecting on really for some time now. But the topic is spotlight leadership versus lighthouse leadership. And what does jealousy tell us about both? I put on my glasses now, y'all. We official. Okay, so I've got my little notes as I was thinking about this. And like I said, I just want to share a little bit about it. So when you think of a spotlight, right? Or first of all, think of a leader. If you think of a spotlight, that is when the light is on you, the focus is on you, and it says, look at me, look at this person, versus a lighthouse, right? Both are lights, both are bright, but a lighthouse says, hey, I'm over here. Come this way for safety. I'll protect you from danger. I'll steer you away from the rocks over here. Now, what is so unique about a spotlight leadership versus lighthouse leadership? One is saying it's all about me, and the other is saying it's all about you. So let's break it down and then think about jealousy, right? Um, let's see, what do I want to say? What we typically find is as you exercise your faith and begin to really seek God about the call that He has on your life, and as you try to step into that, sometimes you might encounter some jealousy. Whereas you're thinking everybody in your church community, your family, your relationship, all your loved ones, your friends, they're gonna yay cheer you on. Sadly, that is not always the case. Hopefully, most people are cheering you on, but you actually might come across the exact opposite. And so let's talk about it a little more. First, the spotlight is not the problem. There's nothing wrong with the spotlight. As you are stepping into leadership, you are probably going to be pushed into the spotlight. And when we say leadership, let me just say this, there are all kinds of leaderships. It doesn't mean you're the loudest in the room. It doesn't mean that it has to be about you. You can lead and be a naturally more introverted or more quiet person, or you could be extroverted. It's all the same. And I don't want you to demonize the spotlight. Some of us who may have been taught from childhood to dim our star, you might feel like, it's not okay to be seen, or it's not okay to have eyes on all eyes on me. And that's not true, right? Some positions require the spotlight, promotions. You might need to be a speaker and you need to be on stage. Maybe you're a business owner and you've got to market yourself. When you're going for a job interview, you have to learn how to sing your own praises in order to show that person that's doing the hiring that you are, in fact, the best person for the job. So the spotlight itself isn't the issue. But when we think about spotlight leadership, it's focusing on recognition, applause, status, image, or influence. And sometimes the question with our spotlight leadership is, how many people are looking at me, right? In today's day and age of Instagram, TikTok, and social media influence, millions of people can be looking at you at any given time. And like I said, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but here where we're combining faith, mental health, and relationships, we know that God gave us all a light. How are you using it? So let's think about lighthouse. And I want you to literally picture this big lighthouse. When there's a storm, sometimes the only thing that people on the sea, the ocean, whatever body of water, all they can see is that light. that's shining around. And a lighthouse is permanent. It is stable. It doesn't matter what happens with the weather. The lighthouse is going to shine. And a lighthouse leader focuses on service, right? You are trying to serve those you are leading, providing direction. Come this way. Maybe you know what way people should go because you've been there and learned the hard way, or maybe you're just seeking God. Stewardship, impact, and most importantly, protection. So the question for the lighthouse leader is, who is safer because I showed up? All right. There we have it, right? And there can be, what do I want to say? You can be both. Like I said, sometimes you're going to be in the spotlight. Sometimes you're going to want to be the lighthouse. Lighthouse leadership is something that I've made up. It's a phrase, a metaphor that I created as I thought about the call that God has put on my life and how do I want to show up. But a more common term you might have heard of is a servant leader, right? So let's talk about dun, dun, jealousy and how it shows up and rears its ugly head. Most jealousy isn't actually about what somebody else has. It's about the feeling that it triggers in you about what you think you don't have, or what does their success appear to say about you. Examples. She got promoted. He launched the business. They got married. She became the speaker, or he got recognized. When we are dealing with jealousy, it whispers, if they're shining, maybe there's less light available for me. And we know that is a trick of the enemy, and the enemy is the father of lies. That could not be further from the truth because that's exactly not how light works. I was recently, a few months back, I think I shared at a young person passed away at my son's middle school, and they had a dedication ceremony where each of us had a candle. No one lost their light on their candle because they lit another candle. All it did was spread the light so that event, it was beautiful when you saw all those candles flickering. But sometimes when we are jealous, we think if I share my light, there's not enough for me and the other person. One candle doesn't diminish another. All right. So let's think about some signs, because I know we love practical tips, tools, right? What are some signs that you may be dealing with jealousy in your personal relationships? And unfortunately, this thing can rear its head in any type of relationship. So we're going to start with friendships. Signs you might be dealing with jealousy in your friendships. Watch for when the celebration becomes competition. You know, was your birthday party, did they think, well, I got to have a bigger, better birthday party, right? Or backhanded compliments, right? Like, what's a good backhanded compliment? Man, I never thought you would have got that done given where you grew up, right? Minimizing your accomplishments. I once had somebody tell me, who was a friend, right? When I had decided I was going to pursue my doctorate degree, that the school I was going to go to, anybody could get in there. Oh, really? Well, let's see you do it. All right. That's the petty. Disappearing during your victories. When it's your moment to shine and maybe you're in the spotlight, where are they? And this one is related. Do they show up only when you're struggling? Misery sometimes loves company, and some people who truly aren't for you are happier when they see you struggle. And they might get a little weird when they see your success. Something that put this on my heart, particularly this week. For years, y'all, I have been following the Shanquella Robinson case. And this is a story of a young lady who lost her life on a friend's trip to Mexico. And the group of friends that she was with decided that they were going to video record her getting beaten by another friend. And ultimately, she ended up dying because of that beating. Well, as you know, with any trial and things like that, it takes years to get to the bottom of it. So now, recently on social media, it's beginning to surface what was the motivation for them beating her. It was jealousy, y'all. The girl's best friend and Shanquilla both started businesses. Shanquilla's business grew by 340%, while her friend's business left her in debt $47,000. And as that jealousy just grew and grew, the resentment grew and grew. So please watch out for these type of things, okay? Let's talk about what does jealousy sometimes look like in families. What I want you to watch for, again, criticism disguised as concern. So that might look something like, well, you know, you've been really busy. Are you sure you can take that on right now? Guilt around your success. This could look like, well, you know, maybe you're a parent. What are the kids going to do if you take this new job? What about them? Who's going to look out for them? Pressure to stay small or rewriting your accomplishments. That might look like he never could have did it without me, right? So some examples of things you may hear when there is jealousy coming from a family member. Y'all remember this? Don't get too big for your britches, or you think you better than everybody, right? Here goes my petty. Do you really think you're better than everybody, or do they think you're better than everybody? Here's a good one. Must be nice, right? So that's jealousy, how it might show up in families. Now let's look at in your romantic relationship with your partner. And if you have a happy, healthy, thriving relationship, this person ultimately will be your biggest cheerleader, your biggest supporter, because when you win, they win. But unfortunately, jealousy in relationships, this gets really heavy, and it actually can be a destroyer to relationships, right? It could be poisonous to love. But what do you want to watch out for? Sabotaging your opportunities. This might look like the day before that big interview, your partner picks a fight with you. So you don't have as much time to prepare and you're not as rested as you could have been. Discouraging your growth, making your dreams inconvenient. This is a big one. Some of the leading researchers in couple relationships, the Gottmans, who I've referenced on this show many, many times, but again, they looked at about 10,000 couples and studied them so that they could come up with a theory of how best to provide couples counseling. After all of that research, somebody asked Dr. Gottman, if you had only 30 seconds to save someone's relationship, what would you do? And he said, I would tell them to honor their partner's dream. Right? So, jealousy in a relationship might look like making your dreams inconvenient. It might look like them needing to be the center of attention at all times, even in your moment. Right? Or it might look like punishing you for succeeding. A healthy partner says, let's both shine, right? I remember telling somebody, like, oh, we're shiny. Let's do this thing, right? But an unhealthy partner might say, you need to dim yourself so I can feel bigger, so that I don't feel less than. Okay? So, again, I know we're talking about leadership because God has a call on all of our lives, and I want to see you move into the call on your life. Why? Because you're going to be the happiest and healthiest when you are moving according to his will and fulfilling your God-given purpose. But I also want to help you address the stumbling blocks, which may look like jealousy. Now, I've told you what to watch out for. Let's have the next hard conversation. Sometimes you might be the jealous one. Okay. Nobody wants to be accountable. Everybody wants to talk about how people are jealous of them, but no one wants to be honest about if they are the jealous person. Questions to actually ask yourself. You don't have to share this with anybody else, but just reflect and be honest with you. One, Can I celebrate people who are ahead of me? Right? So if somebody is, I don't know, further along, and to my young people, I know I have young people watching. If you're a great soccer player and there's somebody else on the team who's just a little bit ahead of you, a little bit more skilled, can you actually celebrate them when they make the goal? Are you genuinely happy? Question two, can I applaud without comparing? Right? Can I give somebody else the praise that is due to them without thinking, what about me? When is it going to be my time? Why hasn't this worked out for me? Three, I love this one. Can I be inspired instead of threatened? Can I be inspired instead of threatened? There's a saying, I can't remember where I heard this, but I know it was in college. Might have been, yeah, might have been when part of a sorority, my sorority that I joined. Hello, Sigma Gamma Rose. But it says imitation is the highest form of flattery, right? It's okay to be inspired by somebody. We want to be inspired by others' good works. We don't want to allow it to threaten us because one person winning or shining or being successful, it does not mean there's not enough for you. And fourth, can I learn without competing? Right? Can I learn without competing? Life, if you are willing to be humble enough to be a lifelong learner and recognize that you can learn something from anyone. When I tell y'all I'm a counselor and sometimes I'm sitting across from someone who is my client and I am learning from them. Real world example. I was working with a couple. Obviously, they were having some issues, but they shared with me that I don't know if it was every morning, they would, yeah, I think it was every morning. Anywho, they would find a place in their house and they would have coffee together with no interruptions. They wouldn't take any phone calls, no TV, and they wouldn't even address the needs of the kids during that coffee hour, right? When they had young kids, they put on a movie or something. I love that. And I said, I like that. Even though this couple has problems, that's something I want to do. And I've remembered it. Now it's been like 10 years later, and I still try to create those special moments. You can learn for anyone because it doesn't matter how many degrees somebody has, how much experience, or even how young or old they are, right? Life is an opportunity to continue to learn and grow. And as long as you're willing to be open to constantly learning and growing, without competing with those you're learning from, sky is the limit. And all of this honestly takes maturity, right? The maturity to think, am I the jealous one? And if there's an area right now where you feel some of that jealousy, seek God right now, right? Ask God to remove that thorn from your flesh. All right. As we're talking about being inspired, one other piece I want to point out. What is the difference between admiring versus jealous? Admiration says, come on, if God did it for them, maybe it's possible for me, right? When you look at, even I'm thinking back to Shanquella's story, if she could increase her business, could grow 340%, if God could do it for her, maybe he can do it for me. Jealousy will have you thinking, if they got it, I might never get it. All right. Admiration spurs us to good works. Admiration creates action. Jealousy creates resentment. As I'm bringing it all full circle, right, I want us to think about why lighthouses are not threatened. A lighthouse understands that its assignment is unique. Every lighthouse serves a different shoreline, a different harbor, a different coast, a different storm, and even a different season. The lighthouse ain't worried about the other lighthouse that's 50 miles away. It's busy serving its assignment, anchored in providing light and protection to those that will come along this path. Let's think about some questions. Every leader, and if I know some of you might think that I'm not a leader, God says different. We're all leaders. You're leading in some capacity. You may be leading in your home, leading on the workplace. You are just may just be being an example to the people that you come across every day, sometimes on the bus, you never know. But questions to ask: who am I helping? Who am I guiding? Who feels safer because I'm here? What problem am I solving? And where am I pointing my light? Remember, a lighthouse is shedding that light on others, a spotlight towards ourselves. And lastly, I just want to remind you that there's nothing wrong with being a light. God says you are the light of the world, right? But he didn't say you're the spotlight of the world. He says you are the light, and let your light shine so they can be a guide and a revelation to others. So, having said all this, I know I'm talking to a very diverse audience. I'm talking to those who have been the victim or recipient of jealousy and resentment. I'm also talking to those who have been jealous and resentful. I'm talking to those who have sought out the spotlight almost religiously. And I'm talking to those who have avoided it just as religiously, right? And it's okay. I want you to recognize one, it's okay to be in the spotlight, and it's important to find out how you are a lighthouse. Let's see. My final thought, right? In just this week, wherever you are in your journey, let's ask ourselves not how many people noticed your light this week, but instead, who found their way because of it, right? So thank you all. As you can see, my website has been running at the bottom of the screen. If you would like more information, I oftentimes post handouts that go along with the various episodes. There are free resources available there, but please visit me at www.drtoyaflowers.com. There's some links to upcoming events and things like that. So please do check us out. As always, please don't forget to visit us here on You Plant, We Water, where we again are focused on combining our faith with our mental health so that we can have the happy, healthy, thriving relationships that God is calling us to. I hope that today's topic will help you to not shrink, but to shine, and to shine that light so brightly that it becomes an anchor, a point, a message of safety, and something that somebody else can follow who's further behind you. I think that is it. I think I done ran through that quicker than I wanted to. But as always, thank you all so very much for tuning in. Oh, I do have some brief announcements since I got a little bit of time. Please know that we are planning our first couples retreat. Now, when I tell you all, this is the reason I became a counselor. I wanted to work with couples and I wanted to host retreats. And so I'm super excited that this full circle moment is finally coming. I don't know. I always say at the beginning of the show that I'm a marriage, couple, and family counselor. But my niche, my specialization, what I'm known for is in the field is working with high conflict couples, infidelity, coercive control and power dynamics, family conflict, parenting, right? So I am your go-to if you're having troubles or difficulties. But the couples retreat is not necessarily for those couples who are in a really bad place. In fact, it's for couples who just need a chance, a pause to kind of reconnect, to be away from the distractions of day-to-day life and the world for a little bit so they can focus on each other, so that they can plant seeds of love and care and commitment, and they can watch that thing grow as it's watered. So this is not for my high conflict couples, but if you're high conflict, reach out to me and I can work with you one-on-one. And I also have some other materials coming out. But again, our couples retreat, we are shooting for October, and it's called Our Love Story, a couples retreat experience. Visit the website, www.drtoyaflowers.com, for more information. Relatedly, there are going to be more her healing, exhortation, and restoration events coming up. I'm trying to think. There's just so much going on, y'all. I've been busy. I'm working in the background, trying to be a lighthouse. So check me out, and I will see you again next week. As always, first, thank you for tuning in. You plant, we water. God is going to give the increase.